Are you thinking of leaving corporate, but too afraid to make the move? Have you already escaped corporate, but are finding it hard to run your dream business? Are you wasting valuable time by attempting to figure challenges out on your own? We have created a podcast for corporate escapees running their own business. This is the Corporate Escapees Podcast by Build, Live, Give. We bring you firsthand experiences of guests going through many of the struggles you face each and every day as a corporate escapee. We get real with no corporate BS. And now, over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Welcome to the Corporate Escapees Podcast by Build, Live, Give. I'm Paul Higgins and I'm your show host. And today I'm very excited to have Josh Stanton from Screw the 9 to 5. Josh and his partner Jill have created a brilliant brand and a community. Their purpose is to help entrepreneurs to grow. Unlike many of our guests, Josh actually started very differently, and it's an absolute hilarious story that he goes into, an absolute must listen. Josh also talks about his vision to be the number one lifestyle brand for entrepreneurs across the globe. He also talks about why he closed 150 sites to focus on the Screw the 9 to 5 brand. He opens the Komodo on his shift in lead generation, and he gives some brilliant advice, just too good not to listen to. And it's also great to see another fellow Aussie smashing it around the globe. So what I'll do now is hand you over to Josh Stanton from Screw the 9 to 5.
If you're enjoying listening to our guest stories, just letting you know we have a community for corporate escapees who are rapidly growing their dream business to find freedom. Just like you, it's called BLG Boost. You get exclusive access to a forum of like-minded peers answering your most pressing questions. You get actionable tips to solve your most common challenges. You get hundreds of trusted suppliers to save you time and money. You get member-only discounts. You get direct access to coaching by a global leader in the field and easy to implement content solving common topics mentioned in popular threads. If you are tired of being alone and are seeking the freedom of running your own business whilst meeting your financial goals, go to buildlivegive.com/webinar. In case you missed it, the link will be in the show notes. Please check it out. Welcome, Josh Stanton from Screw the 9 to 5 to the Corporate Escapees podcast brought to you by Build, Live, Give. So, Josh, we're going to get to know plenty about you, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners already heard the great work that you and Jill do for people leaving corporate. But I just wanted to start with something that your family or friends would know about you that our listeners wouldn't.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just kind of weird that our audience, by the way, it's really awesome to be here with you. I'm super excited to chat today. One thing that's super weird that our audience is kind of caught onto, and it's kind of annoying because it's not really true, is everyone thinks that I have this weird obsession with pugs to the point where people send me things. They literally send me t-shirts of pugs on them, and they send me someone knitted a pug and sent me a knitted pug. Which is actually behind me right now. It's hilarious. So this is this crazy thing. And it's all because we had pugs when I was growing up as a kid. It's kind of funny what happens with the internet when you kind of just mention something about yourself and then it just catches on like wildfire. People just are obsessed. They're more obsessed with pugs now, or me being obsessed with pugs than I actually am with pugs. It's funny.
Right. So you haven't gone as far as, wearing a pug t-shirt every time you're in public.
How do I do it? No, definitely not. But whenever I do see a pug now, I'm I don't know. I think my obsession has increased as a result of everyone else focusing on it. So when I see a pug now, I'm just immediately have to go and play with it. It's funny.
Fantastic. And look, I normally ask people, what was your corporate escapee story? But as you said before we went live, that it was a little different for you guys. You actually had a different start. I know you, and when we go in, you contribute so much to the community of people leaving corporate. But why don't you just talk about a little bit about your backstory? And I know it's different to, the typical corporate escapee.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. It's a question a lot of people ask us, and they say, like, "So, what was your corporate life like?" And my answer always is, "I don't know. I don't have that answer," because the truth is, I was never in deep corporate. And I think, like, because our brand is called Screw the 9 to 5, there's this preconceived notion that we were, myself and Jill, we actually were in corporate and we kind of escaped it. But the truth is, we were never in the 9 to 5, and we always said screw the 9 to 5. We just kind of wanted to spread that message. As far as my background goes, it did after school, after finishing high school, I did start studying engineering, and so I was going down that path. And it was quite a cool opportunity that was given to me. I remember, because I'm the youngest of 5, my older siblings, they kind of got forced to, go down the same path as everyone else. And like what so many younger siblings probably get the opportunity, because their parents, by the time they get to the 5th kid, they're like, yeah, whatever, you can do whatever you want. That's fine. So for me, I was studying engineering and I was hating it. And I remember coming home one day at nighttime. I was commuting 2 hours to Brisbane every day, 2 hours there, 2 hours back. And I got home and my dad said to me, Are you okay, Josh? And I said, like, yeah. And he's like, what's wrong? I said, well, I'm just exhausted. I don't care about mathematics or anything to do with engineering. And he said to me something I'll never forget, because my father's no longer with me. He said to me, you don't have to do this. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. You can do anything you want. And because I got told that, he actually gave me a choice to go out into my life as an adult to kind of like live the kind of lifestyle that I wanted to live. And I didn't have to follow the direction that everyone else was following. So I was very fortunate to being given that opportunity. As a result of that, I just started like looking for other ways to generate money and live a different kind of lifestyle. And because of that, I came across a lot of things to do with online business and started building my own businesses from there. So it's not the typical, I left my 9 to 5 corporate job and started this business. It was ingrained in me from a very young age.
Excellent. And what was that first business you stepped into in the online space?
Are you ready for it?
Yep. It's not pugs,
Okay.
by the way.
No, it's not, but that would actually be a good business to step into. It was, and I'm not joking, I'll tell you the story because it's kind of a fun story. It was a goldfish business. But it wasn't selling goldfish. It was selling a book about goldfish. And let me explain it to you, because you're probably like, what are you talking about? Who is buying books on how to take care of their goldfish? I'll tell you that a lot of people are buying books on how to take care of their goldfish. When I first got started, we actually got started with a course by Frank Kern, who's a really famous internet marketer. And the concept was do keyword research on Google, come up, like find topics or concepts that get a lot of search on Google. And then what you're going to do is you're going to then do all the research, hire someone, a ghostwriter, to create an ebook for you. And then you're going to put it up on Google AdWords, and you're going to sell it from there. At the time, the cost per click on Google AdWords was like 5 cents. It was crazy. It's not anything like that right now. It's like $5 a click. And so I didn't actually have the money to pay for the book, because the book was like $350.
Right.
And so the only thing, and I didn't have a job at that time too, but I only had a set of golf clubs that was worth about $300. And so I took my golf clubs down to the local cash converters. You would know what that is. Yes. For sure. So I went down to local cash converters. They gave me $300 for the golf clubs. And I came back and I had enough money to get the book written. And then a week later, as the book was getting written, it took a month to get written, my brother came downstairs and he asked me if I wanted to play golf. And I said to him, I can't play golf. And he said, why can't you play golf? And I said, because I don't have any golf clubs anymore. And so he said, what happened to your golf clubs? I said, I had to sell them. I had sold them to cash converters. He's like, why did you sell your golf clubs to cash converters for? And I said, I needed the money to pay someone to write a book about how to take care of goldfish, okay? I came clean about it, and he gave me so much crap, as all older brothers would do. And it makes perfect sense looking back on it why he would have done that. But what he didn't know, and what I did know, is that book would actually sell. And so that book went on to make about $15,000 of sales over the course of about 2 years. And so the cost of the golf clubs was $300. I got a pretty good return on that investment. So that was the first time I got into business, was selling a book about goldfish.
That's brilliant. The only bit that I find a little strange about that story is that you didn't sell one of your brother's golf sets and keep your own. That's what I would have done.
That would have been a lot smarter. I don't think they would have forgiven me.
No. And look, and on that journey of, online businesses, what's some of the help that you've got? You mentioned Frank, who have you sort of followed, and what's sort of been the knowledge that you've gained as you've, built this fantastic community?
So look, that was like a little dabble into like making money online, but it wasn't really an online business. It wasn't really a business sense. So I realized I needed to develop more skills. And so I actually went and took up an internship at a small SEO company on the Gold Coast, actually in Australia. And from there, I worked there for just over a year, and I didn't get paid very much, but the guys I worked with, I'm so thankful for them. They taught me a ton about SEO, which was a really important skill for me to develop at that time. This was 2007 or 2008, I can't remember. But at that time, like SEO was a pretty useful thing. It still is a very useful thing, by the way. But I learned some really fantastic skills working there. And then after that, I took those skills and started like expanding a little bit further. And I started like, actually worked with a partner, and we created some software around blogging, and we kind of expanded out that way. But getting that initial background, and if there's anyone who has no idea about how to do anything in regards to internet marketing, online business, I highly recommend going and maybe just working for free at like an SEO company, or just something, doing an internship so you can develop those skills. That was the best thing I ever did.
Brilliant. Excellent. So obviously our community, and I'm pretty sure our community knows you well, but what do you say when you walk into a party and someone says, so Josh, what do you do?
Look, it took me a long time to get over this, and I've talked to a number of people who have similar businesses to us, and I ask them the same things, like, what do you say to people to help them get it? And so for a long time, I was afraid to say this word, and I don't know why, but I really stepped into it now. And the word is, when someone asks me what I do, I say I'm an entrepreneur. I always start off with that now, because I truly believe that that's who I am. I truly believe I've been doing this for so long now. I've been building businesses online for so long. I'm an entrepreneur. And so then usually there's a follow-up question like, what type of businesses do you own? And then I can kind of explain the different businesses that we have. So it took me a long time to step into that. I used to, when I go through customs, I'd be afraid to write down entrepreneur.
Yes.
And so I'd write down like silly little things like web developer or marketing, or just something like that, right? But now I think like, and it's really important that if you really want to step into the life of business, then you need to step into that role as an entrepreneur. You need to tell yourself and tell everyone else that that's who you are now.
Yeah, I think that's great. And certainly for our audience, and I know from my personal experience, I used to hide what I did, because the director at Coca-Cola, everyone either knew someone there, wanted a job there, or wanted to know about the formula. So I used to avoid it. And people, if I did say, where do you work? I'd say Coca-Cola. And they said, what do you do? And I'd say a forklift driver. And they'd never ask me another question. So it was like really easy. But then once I left corporate, I'd walk into an event and I had no idea what to say. And I used to, you talk to you passing your dad, but my parents would call me and say, so what are you doing? What do you do? What do I tell my friends? My brother's a policeman. That's really easy to articulate. You used to be easy to articulate. Now I've got no idea. You seem to always be in your shorts at home and not doing anything. It sounds like a midlife crisis, but I'm sick of saying that. Give me something. So I completely get it. I know a lot of our community really find, and it's amazing when you lose that status as well, that you used to be so easy to say, I'm this, and then all of a sudden that's effectively gone, and then you've got to recreate yourself. And around that entrepreneur, so what are some of the businesses that you're involved in at the moment?
So at the moment, we're pretty much full-time on Screw the 9 to 5. Our goal for Screw the 9 to 5 is to become the number one lifestyle brand for entrepreneurs. That's our big, hairy, scary goal. And so right now we're actually trying to step into go a little lateral in our audience. And so we're actually looking to broaden out just outside of like online business coaching into other areas of entrepreneurship as well. And so really like one of the things we've learned over the years is that there's pretty much in this life of business, it's not like your business is separate from your life. Whereas in a 9 to 5, like people have their 9 to 5 is separate from their real life. And so with business, it's pretty much one big general lifestyle. Everything kind of fits in together. And those three big areas that we really want to focus on are actually business, health, and life. And so right now, Jill's actually a couple of weeks out from having our first baby, which is very scary and exciting at the same time.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm excited, and thank you for the tips before we started recording this episode. By the way, I really appreciate it. Best advice ever. So yeah, what we're realizing is that there's a bigger objective for Screw the 9 to 5 than just training people on how to do online business. We want to really focus on the holistic approach to what the lifestyle is of the entrepreneur. And so that's kind of, we're going all in on that right now. Prior to that, we were doing lots of things, though, mostly online businesses. We were doing a lot of affiliate marketing. We had a number of different sites in like the skincare, healthcare, beauty, different niches. In fact, we had about 150 different sites at one stage because we just kept growing and growing and growing. And so we sold up all of those sites and we focus full time on Screw the 9 to 5, just because this is what we feel like is our true purpose in life.
And just take me to making that decision. Like, how did you come to, I've got 150, I'm assuming they're making good revenue, making good money, to say, no, I'm going to stop those and then just follow this key path?
Just getting tired of the mundane. I'm sure like you would probably understand this, Paul, but when you're doing things just to kind of make money, eventually it loses its appeal. And you start to lose your interest in this lifestyle, and you start to create that separation again, which is like, I need to wake up and like work on these sites, which is like my job, and it doesn't really fulfill me anymore. And so like, I'm just going to kind of like half work on them, and then I'm just going to like try and have a life outside of that. And I just felt like we were going down a bad path there, a path of like very low fulfillment. And although we were making money and like it was fine, we were living overseas, we had a lot of freedom and stuff like that. We didn't feel like we were creating any kind of legacy for ourselves. And so we just made that decision to go all in on Screw the 9 to 5. And I'm not going to lie, it's been up and down for sure, like any business is. But what I will say is that I've never felt more aligned with something in my life. And if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're looking to get out of corporate right now and start a business, I get that you're going to go through an approach which is like, I need to make money. That's fine. Take responsibility for yourself. When you do get to a point where money isn't as big of an issue for you, and you do want to actually create something that is going to be a legacy for yourself and your family, I really want to challenge you to try and find that and go all in on it when you do.
Yeah, look, that's brilliant. And I suppose that's perfect alignment with our brand, which is, build your dream business, live a great life, and then give back, that there is something greater that you can contribute. So, I'm really excited that you've made that decision. And I know you've already got a huge audience. So I know a lot of people are going to benefit for that. And on your audience, how did you go about, deciding who your ideal client is? So the entrepreneur, you said, and I love where you're going to take the brand and your vision, but how did you decide that that's right for you guys?
I mean, we had plenty of identity crises. I think a lot of businesses have this, and that's fine. Initially you say to yourself, okay, who do we think we want to target as far as our customer goes? And so you go after that initially, and trust me, you will attract those people. If you put it out there and you say, I want to attract that type of person, you will attract that type of person. And that's exactly what we did. And it worked out great. Actually, initially when we first started targeting people, we were getting people who weren't even serious about business. They were just kind of like following us because they wanted to follow along with the lifestyle. And so we put a product out there and no one bought. And it really made it clear to us that we were creating the wrong type of content and doing the wrong type of marketing and promotions. We're attracting the wrong type of customer. So we shifted away from that and we focused more on people who were really looking to create businesses. And so we focused on initially people who kind of like essentially like your audience, who were looking to screw their 9-to-5s basically. And we captured those people, and we work with a lot of those people right now. And I power to them. They're amazing people. They're really wanting to change their lives. And so now what we're trying to do is we're trying to target a more general entrepreneur base, as opposed to just trying to teach people how to like start small online businesses. We want to try and focus on like the more holistic approach to the lifestyle of entrepreneurship. That just because we know now, after meeting a lot of people, we know exactly who those people are that we want to attract into our brand.
Great. And who's sort of doing it well? Like who are the brands that you look at the moment and you've basically got in your sights?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I would say this is a good question. I would say someone who has done a fantastic job of surrounding himself with incredible entrepreneurs is a man by the name of Jason Gaynard. He's a Canadian as well. And he started this really amazing event once a year called Mastermind Talks. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, Paul.
No, I haven't.
It's an incredible event. So he's done such a great job. His strategy was this, right? He would travel around to different cities in North America, and he would put on basically dinners for entrepreneurs in those cities, and he would invite those people to come to his dinner. He would pay for the dinner and stuff, and he would bring them in and he would connect them all together. And then he decided, okay, I've got this incredible network of entrepreneurs now, and like amazing entrepreneurs, like very successful ones at that. And he decided that he wanted to do a live event once a year, which he calls Mastermind Talks. And so the first year, I think he charged like maybe $1,000 or something for the event. It was like a 1 or 2 day event. And I think he got a whole bunch of people there. It was like 100 and something people. And then fast forward another 7 or 8 years, and he has this event called Mastermind Talks once a year. There's a 14,000 person wait list to get into this event, but there's only 150 people allowed to come. And he charges now over $8,000 per ticket to this 5-day event. It's really cool. And so for me, I really respect the approach that he's taken around the concept of relationship building, building strategic partnerships and relationships with people, as opposed to trying to use like certain marketing strategies to try and convince people to buy your products. He just said, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to really try and build connections with some fantastic entrepreneurs all across the world. And I know that by investing my time in building those relationships, it's going to pay off in a very successful business, which it has today. So I want to use him as probably like the best example.
Great. And on your journey to be the number one lifestyle brand for entrepreneurs, what will the business model look like? What are the ways that you'll make revenue?
Yeah. So as far as from a revenue standpoint, one of the best things we've realized, if we want to create more leverage, the best way of creating leverage is to build strategic partnerships with other people in business and also in health and in life as well. Take, for example, we're about to launch a pretty incredible guide on webinars coming out really soon. It's a 12,000 word piece of content. And what we did is we went out and we basically researched and tried to connect with as many people who are doing great things in the webinar space. And the one person who we really want to back and get behind the most, she's an incredible webinar trainer herself, is Amy Porterfield, who I'm sure you're familiar with. So she has a webinar training course, and she already knows so much about webinars, right? So we could, if we want to, we could like try and create courses and products in all these different areas, but that's a whole lot of bandwidth, a whole lot of time. It's not very scalable, basically. And so instead of doing that, why don't we just try and connect up with all the individuals who are doing such a fantastic job, who already have amazing expertise in those different areas, and we can drive leads their way instead. And so what we really want to focus on is creating a publishing type business where we build a lot of exposure around the brand of Screw the 9 to 5, and then we deliver that exposure, those leads, to relevant strategic partners.
Great. And I don't know, do you know Nathan Chan and founder?
I do, yeah. I've spoken to Nathan a few times.
Yeah, great. Well, I know that he's got sort of a similar path. I know he's just launched something with Ari Meisel on productivity as an example. What's going to be sort of your point of difference to, something that founders putting out versus what you guys will put out?
So the main thing I think is like quality of content. I think that's key. So for us, it's like really researching these different topics in great depth and really like trying to speak to the best people in those different areas, the people who have the most amount of expertise in those areas, and continue to update that content and make it better. I think there's been a shift away from quantity around content, so producing like a ton of content all the time. We're seeing like companies like BuzzFeed starting to fail now, and they were producing a ton of content all the time, and it's really, now I'm feeling like there's a shift towards high quality, and so we want to really go down that path. So instead of producing, like, let's say we come out with this webinar piece, right, or if we come out with another piece around podcasting, we talk to some of the best podcasters in the industry. Instead of like creating another one around podcasting or a ton of different pieces of content around podcasting, let's just have one, and we'll just update that every time we find out something new. So that way we're always continuing to improve one piece of content. And what's good about that from an SEO standpoint is that over time, as you improve that content, you can just try and rank one piece of content for every single keyword based around podcasting, as opposed to trying to create tons of different content and try and rank all these different pages. Just focus on one. And I think it's a much better approach, and it's going to have a big impact this year for sure.
Yeah, no, very smart. I really like that. And what's sort of your number one source of new business, new leads, new business, people coming into the community?
Yeah, so we were doing Facebook ads for a long time. And this is a really great lesson for anyone listening in right now. Because we were focusing on one medium, essentially, one channel for getting traffic, the cost of Facebook ads continued to go up. It's an auction, basically, right? Mm-hmm. So as it becomes more competitive, the cost of your ads, the cost to deliver those ads continues to go up. And so because we focus 100% on that, it kind of put us in a bit of a precarious position, which we're now finally like starting to make some moves to get away from that. And so what we're moving towards now, because Facebook ads still work for sure, but we want to move more towards organic traffic. So the podcast will continue to grow. We want to keep growing that over time. We know it's going to be a great source of leads. But I also see there's a lot of people aren't taking advantage of SEO. So there's a ton of search still on Google, and a lot of people don't know how to do that. I'm really thankful that I have that SEO background that helps me a lot. And then beyond that, I really see over the next couple of years, video is going to be a massive thing. And so we want to get ourselves in a position where we can hire a video team to put into place, because it's going to be a really popular medium for the next foreseeable future for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about that noise and the quantity. I know Facebook made some changes to their news feed and trying to change. And I think today they also made an announcement around Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. There'll be nothing on that. So they're trying to clean it up because, I think, it's a simple analogy, but the hose is just so full. I think people are over it. I've actually dropped out of Facebook this year. I've taken it off my phone. I'll check it once. I've shut down my group. Mm-hmm. And just getting out of it because there's just so much noise, and I find that it's so difficult. And I love the bit that you're doing really good quality content that'll actually move the dial and it'll get someone a result rather than just keep bombarding them with things. And then a lot of people that want to consume all the content, just never get anything done because they're always consuming and not producing.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to think about is that the concept of readers are buyers. So if, for example, you put like a post up on Facebook, it's a really short post, and like people will like it, you get a ton of likes. Those people aren't buyers. Like they're not going to go through and purchase your products just because they liked your post. But if someone reads an entire 12,000 word, I'm talking 12,000 word piece of content on webinars, and they really take, and your advice is really great, and they're going to use some of that information to go out and get results. That person now has a really strong affinity with your brand, and a lot stronger than like them just clicking like one time on Facebook. They're actually like deciding they're going to spend, the next 30 minutes reading your content. That's a big difference. That person is much more likely to become a customer.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you talked about, team potentially, building video in your team, but how big is your team at the moment?
Yeah, so right now it's myself, Jill. We have Naja, who's like our executive assistant. Then we have customer support, and then outside of that, we just have subcontractors that help with different areas. So we've kept it pretty lean, and I mean, I think because of our background of being nomadic and stuff, we was always kind of wanted a bit of a lean business. Yeah, so that's kind of important to us. We don't want to like expand to a point where, like we're screw the 9 to 5. Like I don't want to create a corporate environment.
Yeah.
That's like that's why we created this brand in the first place.
Yeah, got it. And what's your biggest challenge in your business that you face today?
The biggest challenge right now is, I would say, around capacity. So it is pretty much because we didn't have any corporate background. We didn't really learn like management and that kind of stuff, right? And so these are different areas that we're having to develop as far as skills go for myself and Jill. So right now we're working. I think you mentioned I'll be mentioning some books and stuff coming out pretty soon, but there's a really fantastic book called Traction. I'm not sure if you've read it, Paul, but they talk about this operating system and putting things together. And so we're really starting to put a structure in place with our business right now. And that's what we've noticed is a big thing holding us back is we don't have the right structure in our business to allow it to grow to the level that we want to get it to. So that's where that's what we're working on right now. I wouldn't say we're struggling with it, but I would say this is the area we're focusing on the most.
Yeah, well, there's no better time to delegate when you've got a new baby on the way, because no matter what way, hopefully you get a brilliant sleeper, which will be great. But if you don't, it's it can be a little challenging. It's amazing what was important to you pre-baby becomes important to you afterwards. But I think it's a great time to do that. And look, it's interesting. A lot of our community, was so caught up in the structure, like Coca-Cola, 160 years, it was so process driven, it was run beautifully as a business, but that was really restricting in some occasions. So when I first left, I threw everything out. I actually, it was complete freedom. And it's interesting now what we've done is sort of take some of the best of and bring it back in. And I think a lot of our corporate escapees, they go sort of too far. They go from all structured and none, and then I see them slowly come back. So I think there are some brilliant things at corporate you can learn from corporate, and then you can adjust that to suit your business.
I think the difference, Paul, is that this is the real fundamental difference that I learned is that now there's nothing wrong with structure, but now when you start the business, you're the entrepreneur, you're the boss. That's the difference, right? So you have to learn how to step into that role. And it's a much funner role, I'll tell you that. It's more creative. Like you still have the freedom to work on the things that you want to work on. You're like the captain who steers the ship. You say where we're going to go, right? So that's the big difference is you go from sort of being like, like the boat hand or whatever, just doing whatever the captain says, which kind of sucks because you have no control over things, to now having full control. And I think initially there is that concept where people think like, I'm out, I don't have to worry about any structure or anything anymore because you were caught in that rigid environment for a long time, to now having to say, oh no, I need that rigid environment, but it's going to be better for me because now I get to call the shots.
Yes, and then it's hard to let go, because if you're doing everything, like it just takes 5 minutes to do the bookkeeping, do this, do that. It's really hard then to scale, because you get so used to doing everything, you actually find it hard to let go. So there's certainly, it's the other end as well.
It's quite a journey.
Yeah, and if we could grant you one wish to solve this capacity opportunity that you've got, what would that be?
Uh, I don't know if I need like a wish, but I would say like right now we are executing on the principles taught in Traction. It would be to instantly have all of that in place. But I'm aware that it takes a good 12 months to actually execute on putting all these different components together. But I mean, for me, it would be like, yeah, instantly have all the structure that we want in our business.
Right, well, the next section is around live. And what I'd love to know is just tell us a bit about your daily habits. What are the things that help you be as successful as you are?
So the morning is really important. I'm sure a lot of people will tell you about that. The morning's like super important. So we wake up. One of the first things that I love to do in the morning is I'll drink a ton of water. And I didn't do that for a long time. I didn't drink a lot of water. When you work at a computer all day, you kind of get caught up just focusing on like, okay, we're going to get this stuff done. You forget to drink, And so when I wake up in the morning, now I'll drink like a liter of water. I'll just down it and it'll instantly put me into like a good rhythm for the day. So it's almost like my trigger to say, okay, the day started, let's get going. As we go throughout the day, I'm actually pretty easygoing. Like I'll work probably 6 to 8 hours a day. It's kind of funny, like a 9 to 5. And yeah, I mean, Joel and me work together in the same office. So we're kind of talking to each other. Our team's remote right now. So we have like a weekly meeting on Mondays. And then the rest of the time we're just using Slack to kind of communicate. And we're also using Asana to manage our projects and things like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's going to be like when we have a baby. This is like a part of the a part of the journey is going to be like trying to understand like, okay, right now I don't feel pressure to get things done or be too productive or be too efficient, but I have a feeling that once a baby comes, I'm going to be like, okay, I've got 3 hours. What am I going to get done? How do I prioritize? So I think it's going to be a big shift about to occur.
Yeah, and to get your VA fired up, because there's going to be a lot more coming their way, I would assume. And you mentioned Jill, who as you said, you're a brilliant partnership. If she was listening to this podcast, what would you love to say to her about the support she's given you?
I would say it's so incredibly amazing to have someone who I can depend on at all times. She's the most dependable human being you would ever meet. For example, for this call, she literally woke me up today and said, "You've got a call today at 2 p.m." And I'm like, okay, who's it with? And she's like, "It's with Paul Higgins, and I've sent you all the information for it. I'll also remind you at about 1:30 as well that you've got 30 minutes until it goes live." And she knows what is going on at all times. I don't know how she does it, how she has the brain capacity to do this, but somehow she manages to know exactly what's going on at all times. And having someone like that has been so crucial to allow me to step into my zone of genius, which is much more of the coming up with ideas and that kind of stuff.
Brilliant. And the next section is the give section. So what's a cause or a community you're passionate about, and why?
So one of the things that we are looking to launch right now, so in Australia, you're probably aware of this company, the company called Grilled, the burger
Yes.
company?
Yeah, know them well.
Yeah. In Grilled, how you go in and when you buy a burger, they give you like a bottle cap, and you get to take that bottle cap and you put it in like a box where there's 3 charities, and they change up those charities each time. So you get to decide which one you want to give money to. And I think it's like $1 or something like that per bottle cap. So we have a membership site, and one of the concepts that we want to execute on is there's 3 areas that we want to focus on as far as giving back goes. The first is the environment, just because it's quite important to me. Like growing up in Australia, we had such a beautiful environment. Living in Canada, the environment is incredible here. That's super important to both myself and Jill. The second area is social elements. So one area that Jill's really passionate about, because this happened to her really, it was a terrible experience for her in high school. She was bullied like crazy, and we know that causes so many problems for kids as they grow up. And so we want to sort of help out in that realm, in that social element. And then the final area is entrepreneurship. And so right now we do give money to Kiva, but we've heard there's a couple of other nonprofits who are doing really amazing things. They're going down, and actually the difference with Kiva is if you give money to Kiva, they say like you're giving money to this specific person who needs that money to like fix up their shop or whatever. But the reality is that money goes to them and they divvy it up. It's like a pool of money that they divvy up. Whereas there's a few companies that are actually going down and doing proper microfinancing, going down and actually working with these business owners down in third world countries and helping them, teaching them exactly how they can use that microfinance loan to actually grow their businesses and really like wanting to actually improve the financial situation of those individuals in the small villages and things like that. So those are three areas that we were thinking about starting. And the concept that we're probably going to be launching over the next few months is when someone joins, they get to decide out of those three charities which one they want to put in 5% of their monthly fee, which one that wants to go towards. So that's a concept that we're playing around with, and I think it's something that is sort of our way of giving back in our business. So other than that, I feel like we give so much, we screw the 9 to 5 anyway. The concepts we kind of teach, I feel like we're really behind everything that's involved in this brand and what we're trying to do as well.
Yeah, and look, I want to thank you because I know when I first started, I looked for information, and your Facebook community was brilliant, and I certainly learned a lot from there. So yeah, I think you do an enormous amount for the entrepreneur community around the world, and truly grateful for that. The next and the last section is the action section. Just want some rapid fire responses to these simple questions. So the first one is, what are your 3 top productivity tips?
Productivity tips. I would say the first one is Scrum. Have you heard of Scrum before,
Yes.
Paul? Yeah, so using Scrum to manage your projects, I think it's like such a fantastic way because you can focus on one task at a time. As entrepreneurs, we get caught up in like doing too many things at once. Multitasking this kind of like stops you from doing that. So Scrum is super beneficial. The second productivity tip would be to only have 1 meeting a week. And it's very important that you do that. When we first started, we were having meetings all the time. We were constantly trying to like talk to our staff and blah, 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 and we were getting nothing done. And so we said, this is stupid. Let's cut back and let's just do one a week. And as soon as we did that, we started instantly getting more things done. So reducing the number of meetings that you have with your staff. Then the third productivity tip. Do I have to have 3?
No, 2 is fine.
I like those 2, like reducing the number of meetings and using Scrum. I feel like those are 2 good ones.
That's great. And just on Scrum, do you use that then through Asana, the methodology?
Yeah, we do use it through Asana. If I was to say like the third one, because this is in line with what we do too with our projects, is we work in 90-day increments. So we'll have a planning session at the beginning of the quarter, and we'll plan out exactly what we want to get done. And we'll break that down usually into 3 projects. And we'll break down like all the different tasks that need to be done for it. And then we're going to put that all into Asana. We're going to assign it to who needs to do it. And we're going to date it all out. So that way, on a weekly basis, we can look in Asana and see what is due for each person that week. They can write down their weekly task lists. And then every day, they're just going to like work on like 1 or 2 of those tasks. So every day they wake up, they know exactly what they're working on. We did fall into, and this is a trap a lot of people fall into at the start with their business, is the concept of when you wake up and you're like, what should I do today? You know, when that happens, you wake up and you're like, what do I need to get done today? And so what's important for us now is to wake up and say, I know what I'm getting done today because I wrote it down last night. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And you've mentioned Asana, you mentioned Slack, but what are some other favorite apps that you have on your mobile or desktop to run the community?
So Evernote is, I've started using Evernote a lot more lately.
It's gold.
It's such a great app. I don't know why I didn't use it for so long. Evernote is fantastic. The other thing that I've been using to kind of like keep in touch with different partners and things like that is Voxer. Do you use Voxer?
Yes, we do.
Voxer is really cool. I just think like it from a productivity standpoint as well, it's a lot faster. So instead of using Slack all the time, which is like typing basically, between I have my friends who are basically business partners and things, and also our staff, I'll just use Voxer to kind of like Vox them different things that I need from them and whatnot. And it's so much faster. And I would say Voxer is a huge one. The other one is Text Expander. Do you use Text Expander?
I do actually, and no one else ever really. When I use it, people go, I don't understand it. I'm like, that and text replacement on my iPhone, I use all the time. So
Text Expander has an iPhone app.
Does it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can use it on your phone as well, and so that's huge, right? The amount of time you save by using a tool like Text Expander. I tell everyone to use it. If people are struggling to get things done, I'm like, have you got Text Expander yet? If not, go get it. Like just little things. My email is josh@screwthe9to5.com. It's so long, and so now I just have a 2-letter short code for it. And I'm like I don't have to type up josh@screwthe9to5.com. Or if there's important Google documents that we have and I don't know the URL, or if I want to get access to it, I have to go into Drive, I have to search for it, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm just like, I know the short code for all the important Google documents we have. And so I just spit that out and it saves me a ton of time. So Text Expander is huge.
Brilliant. And what podcasts or books do you recommend?
Okay. I already mentioned one, which is Traction. If you're looking to grow your business, like if you know you're already getting some revenue going in your business and you want to go to the next level, you got to go execute on the components mentioned in Traction. It's going to be a game changer for you and your business. Then the other one, and I think this is super relevant to your audience, Paul, and that is E-Myth. Have you read E-Myth?
Yes.
Yes.
Several times actually.
Oh my gosh, it's so relevant for someone looking to quit their job and start a business. Once you read this, everything's gonna make sense to you. So yeah, E-Myth for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I say, do you want to be a baker or do you own a store of bakeries? I credit that to Michael all the time.
Yeah, it's the best, definitely the best example to use for sure.
Yeah, great. And we'll also have a link to your podcast as well, which is fantastic. So we'll have that in there, which I highly recommend. And parting advice, other than, if you really want to start something, sell some golf clubs and get an ebook on goldfish, what is some parting advice you'd love to give our audience?
I think the best advice any entrepreneur can offer another entrepreneur or a starting entrepreneur is stick with it. It like every single time I've felt like I wanted to quit because it got too hard and I just pushed through it. For some reason, there's always another side. Once you get through that door, once you push through that initial wall that you're up against, it's always better on the other side. So you just got to stick with it. The entrepreneurs who are the most successful are the ones who've been doing the same thing over and over again for a long period of time. And so that's honestly the best advice I could ever give any entrepreneur.
And how can people find out more about you?
I would say there's 2 areas. One, go check out screwthe9to5.com. We just did a refresh of our site. We're about to go live right now, right after this podcast. Or if you want to join our Facebook group, which you talked about before, just go to screwcommunity.com. And it's not that kind of community, by the way. It's a business community. Go to screwcommunity.com and you can request access to our Facebook group.
Excellent. Well, also a quick shout out to Kate Erickson as well, who I know is a really good friend of yours and Jill's, and she was kind enough to recommend you to the podcast, which has been great. But I want to thank you. It's always great to see a really good Aussie doing extremely well on the global stage, and you and Jill together are doing that. I've followed you and I've learned a lot from you, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners in the Corporate Escapees podcast will learn a lot from you today. So just really want to thank you, Josh, for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me on. And I think you're doing incredibly important work, Paul, and I'm just very excited for the future of your business as well.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Corporate Escapees podcast, brought to you by the team at Build, Live, Give. If you found this podcast helpful, please share it with other corporate escapees. If you would like to join a community of like-minded peers, please visit www.buildlivegive.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.